Welcome to Small Business, Big Network, the podcast for small business owners who want big results from their networking. I'm Liz Drury, a freelance voiceover artist who knows that if you're not working, then networking could help. Kathryn Strachan is the founder and CEO of Copyhouse, a content marketing agency specialising in helping technology companies. Kathryn says that without networking, her business probably would not exist. Thank you very much for being my podcast guest today, Kathryn.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Now, you're a content creator and a copywriter, but have you always worked in the marketing sector, or did you come from somewhere else?
Yeah, well, I'm not really a copywriter anymore. I used to be, but I now own a content marketing agency, and the team do all the day-to-day stuff and all the delivery. I haven't written anything in a really long time. I don't even know that I would know how to anymore.
I'm sure it's not a skill that you lose.
Well, I tried recently, and I didn't even know where to begin. It's been probably two years since I've actually written anything more than an email or social post. So I haven't felt like a copywriter in a really long time, and yeah, it's not something that I would even know where to begin. Thankfully, we have a really strong creative team and a content director who oversees all that. And, he's a real experienced one when it comes to content marketing.
Yeah.
I know enough to be able to do strategies and to advise, but I could not do the actual doing.
So what is it that drew you to this sector?
I've always kind of been in it. I did a master's in modern literature, and then after I graduated my master's, I was looking at what I could do with a master's in modern lit, and tried an internship at a publishing company, but that wasn't quite for me. It wasn't creative enough, and kind of fell into copywriting. But I always say I was an accidental copywriter. And what I really should have been from the beginning was an entrepreneur, because that's really what I'm best at. I'm best at creating business strategies and leading businesses forward, and hitting sales targets and keeping numbers on track and doing everything like that, rather than actually doing anything hands-on creative.
And when did you decide to set up your own agency?
Well, I don't feel like I actually really ever decided to set up an agency. It more happened that I was a freelance copywriter. And as I said, I was an accidental copywriter, but I was always an entrepreneur. So, after a few months of doing that, it outgrew what I could do. So I started to look at, ways to expand and to grow that. And that, naturally turned into hiring people, and I started to hire and started to grow. And as we started to grow, I got more and more out of the day-to-day, and into more of overseeing the company and the company's future.
And so what size is your team now? How many people do you have working for you?
25. We have 25 full-time permanent employees.
And whereabouts are you based? And are they all based together, or are they kind of spread out?
We're based in the UK. Since they're permanent employees, it's difficult to hire outside the UK due to international employment laws. We do have a few employees in Europe, but most are based across the UK, but we are fully remote.
And how long has your business been going now?
We started hiring in January 2020, so it's been 3 years of building an agency.
Now, 2020 was quite a year, as we all know. How did things change for you during the pandemic?
Yeah, we didn't really exist before the pandemic, so pretty much everything about Coffee House has evolved and grown during the pandemic. Before the pandemic, we were about 3-4 people when the pandemic first hit. Before then, we were quite generalist, so we did a lot of work in travel and recruitment. We've always done a bit in technology, but back then we weren't specializing in it. And then the pandemic hit, and we lost all of our travel and recruitment clients, because those are industries that are quite badly affected. And what we had to do is we had to look at what we did have, and we saw that we had a lot in the technology and fintech space. So we niched down really hard and went after those spaces. We invested in our marketing and in our sales, and took on a Ned called Spencer Gallagher, who continues to act as a non-exec for Coffee House to this day, and kind of really set the foundations for further growth. So that was pivotal to who we are. I mean, now we only specialize in B2B technology. And we don't really go outside that space. And what we do is really specialized and really niche. And yeah, everything that we've become has kind of grown out of that. I mean, we're fully remote. Most of the team were hired during the pandemic. Pretty much everything at Coffee House was shaped in some way by it because we didn't exist before it.
Yeah. And so you're working largely with technology kind of companies. What do you do for them?
So we're a content marketing agency. So we can start at the beginning by doing content strategy and helping companies to build their core messaging and their customer avatars, and doing competitor analysis and content audits and setting a content strategy. Once the content strategy is in place, we go into content production. So content production for us is copywriting, content design, and B2B social. So copywriting can be everything from ebooks and white papers to thought leadership articles. We interview subject matter experts and then use those insights to create really highly technical pieces. We do a lot of blogs and case studies and sales collateral as well. We can design everything that we write. So we can design the ebooks and white papers and the infographics, the social media assets and the brochures and everything like that. And then the other service that we do is B2B social. So that's primarily looking at LinkedIn, though we also are active on Reddit and Twitter and platforms that are very much in the B2B space. We create all the content for it, and then we do the content posting and the community engagement and management so we can engage and build audiences on these platforms for our brands.
And what kind of difference do your clients notice after they've been working with you for a while, would you say?
Well, it depends on what service that we're offering, because we offer quite a broad service, but it always comes back to brand awareness. If we're doing long form content, it improves SEO rankings as well, and helps nurture their leads through the funnel, because the B2B tech space is known for having really long sales cycles. They operate with low volume leads, so they're not like a shoe company that needs hundreds of thousands of leads a month. They need a few handful of really high quality leads, and they then need to nurture these leads for normally 9 to 12 months before they actually buy. So, the content we create helps to nurture them through that sales cycle. So, you have less fallout during the funnel and more ultimate conversions. So we help them create those relationships and, solve problems and answer questions that their prospects might have, which makes their sales team easier, allows their sales team to have those connections at scale rather than, needing to send an individual email every time they have the same question. They can serve a piece of content that answers that question for them. So it plays quite a vital role in their sales process and nurturing and building relationships and building brand awareness as well. Quite a lot of our brands are doing things that are new and require an educational journey, because they're often things that people haven't seen before and might be new or scary or unknown at the very least. So a lot of this content serves to educate people onto, why they should need this new technology and also who the brand is. A lot of brands, especially in the B2B tech space, have very little brand awareness, if any at all. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Now, I know that you run a mentoring scheme. Tell me something about how that works.
I run a pay it forward Thursday session where people can get half an hour of my time. All they have to do is go onto our website, onto that landing page, and submit a request. I do only take one a week, so it does tend to book up a fair while in advance. But it's essentially a half an hour session where you can get advice on your business challenge or on your career, and it's meant to help people who are maybe coming up behind me, or people who need the advice and support, but wouldn't necessarily be able to afford to pay for it.
Is that something that you've been doing for a while?
I think it's been running for about a year now. Yeah. And it's been quite successful. It's normally booked out, a fair while in advance, but it's also quite a nice way to kind of funnel the people who I get asked a lot, if they can have some time to pick my brain. And, when you get asked that 10, 20 times a week,
Yeah.
it would be impossible to support everybody.
Yeah.
So it's a nice way to kind of support people that's manageable with my schedule as well, because my diary is chocker blocker full. I'm always at events and taking clients to lunches and doing lots of things that make it difficult to devote too much time to brain picking.
Yeah, yeah. Now you mentioned events there, and I know that public speaking is something else that you do. So, what kind of topics do you speak on, and where do you get asked to speak?
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of speaking. I probably do about one event a week. It depends. I do a lot of podcasts, but I've been doing a lot of like in-person conferences this year as well, which is super great. I have an event coming up in a few weeks with Semrush. So we will be speaking about how to build an audience in a new category. So how to create demand when your audience doesn't even know that your product exists, which will be a really interesting topic. I'm going to be joined by the head of marketing from Xbox, and we're going to be talking about how to build demand for new audiences and new categories. So that will be really exciting.
Yeah.
I do a lot of public speaking on things like growing an agency, on fast-paced agency growth, but also on content marketing, though a bit less so as our content director starts to take center stage on that and really be seen as the expert in content marketing at Coffee House. But I still do a bit of speaking around content marketing, and on entrepreneurship and leadership and innovation and company growth.
Yeah. So let's have a chat about networking now then. How do you use networking in your business?
Yeah, well, I've always had a networking goal. So my networking goal, I've tried to meet 50 new people every month for a long time now. And yeah, it's been massively helpful. It's helped to open so many doors, both for, public speaking, but also for new business opportunities and, friendships as well. So a lot of the world is, who you know rather than just what you know. There's a lot of people out there who know similar things to you or, do a similar thing to you, but it's really about those personal connections and meeting people and helping people and just being nice all around.
Yeah. So where do you go to meet those people?
Depends. I mean, I used to have to try a lot harder to meet that many people. These days, I go to a lot of events, so it tends to be in-person events these days. I mean, I did it during the pandemic when everything was online, and I used to have to try really hard. So, I'd outreach to and ask people for coffees in groups that I was part of, like Agency Nomics, but also, was on Lunch Club, which is an online networking platform. But as life has gone back to in-person events, it's a lot easier. I probably go to about 3 events a week, and at an event you can easily meet 7 new people, and then you've met 21 people in a week.
Yeah.
If you go to 3 a week. So I mean that goal, while it may sound lofty, all you really have to do is go to one in-person event a week and say hi to 7 people. So it's a really easy thing to accomplish these days, and doesn't require too much effort to get off the ground and running.
What do you think would happen to your business if you stopped networking?
Oh, geez. I don't think it would exist. I mean, I'm constantly networking, and sometimes it's networking with people that I already know. So it's taking clients to lunches or, hosting events. So we have a big CMO roundtable this week at Sushi Samba. That was very exclusive, invite only. CMOs from some of the biggest tech brands are going to be coming to Sushi Samba for a roundtable event where we're going to be talking about marketing strategy for 2023. And I mean, these are all people that I already know, but maybe haven't seen in a little while, or yeah, maybe haven't even talked to in, a few
Hmm.
months. And, being able to invite them to something opens the doors. It allows us to build relationships with them, help them build relationships with the other people who are in the room. It's going to be a really great event. But so we host our own events, and we do a lot of networking in lots of different ways, but it's really just about building relationships and connections.
Yeah. Yeah, networking over sushi sounds great. Do you think it helps if there's food involved?
I mean, I think everything helps if there's food involved. Sushi Samba is one of my favorite restaurants in London, so I'm really looking forward to it. It depends on what you're doing, but yes, normally. I mean, I do a lot of lunches, and lunches are great because you spend 2 hours with somebody and you really get to know them, because you
Mm.
probably spend an hour and a half of that talking about
Yeah.
non-work stuff, and
Yeah.
then the last half an hour talking about work stuff. And it almost always opens up opportunities for additional projects and work related stuff, but only a small fraction of that time is actually spent talking about work.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, why would you encourage other business owners to get out there and network?
I mean, I think you kind of have to network if you're going to have a business. I think, businesses don't exist in isolation. They don't,
Hmm.
you're not an island unconnected to any other business, and unconnected to any other person. And, businesses, any type of business is built on people. So you have to build connections. You have to build bridges, or you're going to be a very lonely, very isolated island. And I
Mm.
don't think your business would survive. So I don't think that you can have a business and not have a network. You may not see it as networking, because what you might be doing is, going for lunches with other coworkers or friends, and you may not see it as networking, because it doesn't necessarily have to be, going into a room of 100 strangers and, you know, um, socializing in a
Hmm.
way that might make more introverted people feel awkward.
Hmm.
But you can't have a business with no relationships. I think that would be almost impossible. So I think it just depends on how you define networking, and doesn't have to be, a big cringy room. And actually, once you start networking as well, those rooms start being so cringy, because you normally know at least one face
Yep.
there. And then you go and say hi to the person, and they're normally talking to somebody else. And then you say hi to them, and, it just makes it a lot easier, because you're not walking into a room of strangers. You're walking into a room where you maybe know five of the faces, and
Yeah.
then meeting five new faces.
Yeah.
So most of the time when I go to events now, I almost always know somebody there, and that makes it a lot easier to go into a big environment or to go into a big conference, because you're not alone.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree with everything you've just said. It definitely gets easier as you go on.
yeah, yeah. Once you know people, um, and it stops being scary as well, because you realize that like everybody's in that room
Yeah.
to network.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're not bothering anybody. Everybody's there for the same reason. Everybody's nice, because if you weren't a nice person, you probably wouldn't be in that room. And everybody is there to have a little bit of a chat and do small talk, and have those sorts of conversations. So once you realize that you're not imposing on anybody, you're not making anybody feel awkward, because you're having the conversation that everybody's kind of there to have.
Hmm.
It stops being so scary as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, just finally, then, Kathryn, if people are interested in finding out more about you and about Copy House, what's the best way for them to find you?
Well, check out our website. It's brand new as in November. So check out our website. Follow me on LinkedIn. I post pretty much every day. So I have a pretty big personal brand. So follow me on LinkedIn, or drop me an email.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much for being my guest, and the best of luck with everything this year.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Small Business, Big Network. If you found this podcast useful, please do rate, review, and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with the rest of your network too.